The clock struck midnight, and the house was eerily quiet. Sarah paced the living room, her phone trembling in her hand as she redialed Anna's number for the 10th time. Each unanswered ring sent a new wave of panic coursing through her veins. "She should have been back hours ago," Sarah whispered, her voice breaking. David, her husband, stood near the window, his face pale as he stared into the darkness outside. "She said she was staying at a friend's house," he muttered, as if saying it aloud would make it true. But they both knew something was wrong. Anna wasn't answering her phone, and none of her friends had seen her. The tension in the room thickened as Sarah rushed upstairs to Anna's room, desperate for any clue. She threw open the door, her eyes scanning the familiar space now heavy with an air of foreboding. On the desk, she noticed a crumpled piece of paper. Her heart raced as she smoothed it out to reveal a short, scribbled note: "I'm going out to meet a friend. Don't worry about me." Sarah's knees buckled. "David," she called, her voice sharp with fear. He hurried to her side, reading the note over her shoulder. His face hardened as he grabbed the house phone. "We are calling the police." Moments later, an officer arrived, taking down their account. As they shared Anna's note and described her behavior over the past few weeks, Sarah's mind flashed to the late nights Anna spent on her laptop, her withdrawn demeanor, and the times Sarah had been too busy to ask, "Are you okay?" Now, with Anna missing, the weight of every ignored moment bore down on them. This wasn't just about a missing daughter, it was about all the signs they'd missed along the way. Anna sat at the edge of her bed, scrolling mindlessly through her phone. The room was silent except for the faint hum of her laptop on the desk, a constant companion in her otherwise lonely world. At 15, she was a bright, thoughtful teenager, but lately, something had changed. Her once bright smile had faded, and the sparkle in her eyes was replaced with a quiet melancholy. Her parents, Sarah and David, were hardworking professionals who loved her but were often too busy to notice the subtle shifts in her mood. Sarah worked long hours at a corporate job, while David ran his own business, both believing their sacrifices were for Anna's future. But their focus on work left her alone for most of the day, with little more than a plate of reheated food and her devices for company. At school, Anna wasn't unpopular, but she often felt out of place. She watched other girls laugh and chat in tight-knit groups, wondering why she couldn't seem to fit in. Her classmates were kind, but none of them truly understood her. She kept her thoughts to herself, bottling up her feelings and retreating into the digital world for solace. Her laptop became her escape. At first, it was innocent, watching makeup tutorials, reading stories, and scrolling through social media. But over time, she discovered chat rooms where strangers gathered to talk about life, dreams, and secrets. It felt exhilarating to share her thoughts without fear of judgment. One night, she received a private message from someone named Mike. His profile picture showed a kind-looking boy with a warm smile, and his first message was simple: "Hi, you seem nice. Want to chat?" Loneliness tugged at her heartstrings, and she replied. Over the following weeks, their conversations became her lifeline. Mike was attentive and charming, asking about her day, her feelings, and her dreams. He always seemed to say the right things, making her laugh and feel special in a way no one else had. She found herself checking her phone constantly, waiting for his next message. But there were small, strange moments that nagged at her. Mike would ask for her photos or hint at meeting in person, saying, "I just feel like I know you so well. Don't you feel the same?" At first, she hesitated, but his reassurances made her feel safe. "I'd never do anything to hurt you," he said. "You deserve to be treated like a queen." At home, Sarah and David noticed Anna becoming more withdrawn but chalked it up to teenage angst. Sarah would pass her room and see the faint glow of her laptop late at night, but exhaustion from work stopped her from checking in. "She's probably just doing homework," Sarah told herself. Anna didn't realize it yet, but her trust in Mike was beginning to blind her. She clung to their conversations as a lifeline, unaware of the danger creeping into her life. And while her parents carried on with their busy schedules, Anna's online world became the only place where she felt seen, even if it was by someone she didn't truly know. Anna sat on her bed, clutching her phone as she read Mike's latest message. "We've talked so much, I feel like I've known you forever. Don't you want to meet me in person?" Her heart raced. For weeks, their conversations had been her escape from the crushing loneliness that filled her days. Mike was the only person who seemed to understand her, the only one who made her feel special. But a part of her hesitated. She reread his words, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Is this safe? She thought. She'd heard stories about meeting people online, but Mike wasn't like those strangers. He was kind, funny, and always there when she needed someone. Besides, he seemed to care about her in a way no one else did. I don't know if I should, Anna typed, her thumbs trembling. Within seconds, Mike replied, You can trust me, Anna. I just want to be there for you. Don't you want to feel free, even for a little while? His words struck a chord. Anna glanced at the closed door of her room, hearing the faint hum of her parents walking in their offices downstairs. They were too busy to notice her, too distracted to ask how she was feeling. The thought of being with someone who truly cared, even just for a little while, was too tempting to resist. Okay, she finally replied. Where should we meet? Mike's response came quickly. He suggested a park a few miles away, late in the evening when it would be quiet. He reassured her, It's just us. We'll have fun, I promise. That night, Anna lied to her parents, telling them she was staying at a friend's house. She packed a small bag, took a deep breath, and slipped out into the night. As she walked to the park, her heart pounded with a mix of excitement and fear. She clutched her phone tightly, checking it every few steps for a reassuring message from Mike. When she arrived, the park was nearly empty, dimly lit by flickering streetlights. She spotted him standing by a bench, his figure silhouetted against the shadows. He waved, smiling warmly, but as she approached, something in his eyes made her stomach twist. It was the first sign that she'd made a terrible mistake. As Anna approached the park bench, she spotted Mike standing there, his hands in his pockets. His warm smile greeted her, but up close, something about him seemed off. He looked older than his profile picture, his face more weathered, his demeanor less friendly than she had imagined. A cold breeze sent a shiver through her as doubt crept into her mind. Hey, Anna, Mike said, his voice smooth but unsettlingly firm. It's so good to finally meet you. Anna forced a smile, her nerves building. Hi, she replied softly, clutching her phone tighter. She glanced around the dimly lit park, the isolation of the place suddenly sinking in. Come on, let's go for a drive. I know a place where we can talk, Mike said, motioning toward a car parked nearby. I thought we'd just hang out here, Anna said, hesitating. Her instinct screamed at her to leave, but Mike's expression darkened. Don't be silly. You trust me, don't you? It'll be fun, he said, his voice now tinged with impatience. Before she could respond, Mike stepped closer, gripping her arm. The force startled her, and her phone slipped from her hand, clattering to the ground. Wait, she began, but his grip tightened. Get in the car, he commanded, his tone leaving no room for argument. Panic flooded Anna as she struggled against him, but Mike was stronger. He shoved her into the passenger seat, slamming the door shut before climbing into the driver's side. Anna's breath came in short gasps as she frantically looked for a way to escape, but Mike had already locked the doors. Relax, he said coldly, starting the engine. We are just going for a little ride. As the car sped away, Anna's fear turned to terror. The city lights faded behind them, replaced by empty roads and dense woods. Her pleas for him to stop fell on deaf ears, his demeanor growing colder with each mile. They arrived at a remote cabin deep in the woods. Mike dragged Anna inside, her screams echoing into the night. Alone and powerless, Anna's worst fears were realized as Mike's facade fully crumbled, revealing the predator beneath. Her mind raced, filled with regret and desperation. Why didn't I trust my instincts? She thought, tears streaming down her face. She could only hope someone would notice she was missing and come to save her before it was too late. Sarah sat on Anna's bed, clutching the note they had found earlier. Her hands trembled as tears streamed down her face. She's out there, David. Alone. And it's our fault, she whispered, guilt heavy in her voice. David stood frozen in the doorway, his phone pressed to his ear as he relayed their daughter's description to the police. The officer on the other end of the line listened intently. We'll start by checking her online activity, he said. Do you have access to her phone or laptop? David's stomach sank. No, he admitted. Her phone's missing, and we've never checked her laptop. Determined to help, Sarah opened Anna's laptop. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitating. How had it come to this? Why didn't we pay more attention? With David's help, she managed to unlock the device. The first thing she saw was an open chat window with a user named Mike. The messages chilled her to the core. I can't wait to see you tonight. Don't tell anyone. It will be our little secret. Sarah's heart sank. She met someone. David, she met someone. Her voice cracked with fear. David handed over the laptop to the police, who began tracing Mike's profile. This username matches a known predator, the officer said grimly. We'll do everything we can to find her. Hours turned into an agonizing eternity as the authorities tracked Mike's online activities. Meanwhile, Sarah and David were left to sit in helpless silence, replaying the last few weeks in their minds. The late nights Anna spent on her laptop, the distance in her eyes, her quiet pleas for attention, all the signs they had missed came crashing down. She needed us, and we weren't there, Sarah said, her voice breaking. David reached for her hand, his own face etched with regret. We'll get her back, he promised. And we'll make it right. Finally, a lead came in. The police had tracked Mike's location to a remote area outside the city. We are moving in, the officer said. Sarah clung to David as they waited, hope mingled with fear. All they could do now was pray that they weren't too late. The night was silent as the police cars sped through the empty roads toward the cabin deep in the woods. Sarah and David sat in one of the vehicles, clutching each other's hands, their hearts pounding. The officer driving spoke into his radio, coordinating with the team. We have the location confirmed. Approach quietly. As they neared the cabin, Sarah caught a glimpse of the dimly lit structure surrounded by towering trees. Her chest tightened. Please let her be okay, she prayed silently, holding back tears. The officers moved swiftly and silently, surrounding the cabin. One of them motioned for Sarah and David to stay in the car. We'll bring her out, he said firmly. With weapons drawn, they approached the door, the tension palpable in the cold night air. Inside, Anna sat trembling in a corner, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her captor, Mike, paced back and forth, muttering under his breath. She flinched as he turned toward her, but the sudden crash of the door being kicked open made them both freeze. Police! Hands up, an officer shouted as they stormed the room. Mike tried to flee but was quickly subdued and handcuffed. Anna's wide, tear-filled eyes darted toward the officers. It's okay, you're safe now, one of them said gently, reaching out to her. Moments later, Sarah and David rushed into the cabin. Anna! Sarah cried, wrapping her daughter in a tight embrace. Anna sobbed into her mother's shoulder, her body shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I just wanted someone to care." David knelt beside them, his voice choked with emotion. "We are so sorry, Anna. We are here now, and we'll never let this happen again." For the first time in days, Anna felt safe. The first few days after Anna's rescue were a blur of emotions. The relief of having her back was overshadowed by the pain of seeing her so broken. Sarah and David watched helplessly as their once vibrant daughter retreated into silence, her eyes haunted by the trauma she had endured. She barely spoke, jumping at the slightest sound, her hands often trembling. Determined to help, Sarah and David arranged for Anna to meet with a counselor who specialized in trauma recovery. The first session was difficult. Anna sat in the chair, her arms wrapped tightly around herself, refusing to make eye contact. The counselor's gentle approach, however, slowly began to break through her walls. "It's okay to feel scared, Anna," she said softly. "But you're safe now, and we'll take this one step at a time." At home, Sarah and David also began taking steps to rebuild their relationship with Anna. They limited their work hours, dedicating their evenings to spending time as a family. Simple activities like cooking dinner together, playing board games, or just talking became a daily routine. At first, Anna was hesitant, but as the days passed, her guarded demeanor softened. One evening, as they sat around the table playing a game of cards, Anna spoke up. "Why didn't you notice?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The question hung in the air, cutting through the fragile warmth that had been building. David set his cards down and looked her in the eye, his voice thick with guilt. "We failed you, Anna. We thought providing for you was enough, but we see now that it wasn't. We are so sorry." Tears welled in Anna's eyes, but this time, they weren't just tears of pain. "I needed you," she said quietly. "I needed someone to care." From that moment, the healing began in earnest. Sarah and David made it clear through their actions, not just words, that they would never let her feel alone again. Anna gradually regained her confidence, finding solace in her parents' newfound attention and love. Though the scars of her ordeal would take time to fade, the family's bond grew stronger with each passing day. They had learned the hard way that love and presence were the most important gifts they could give each other. Together, they vowed to never let silence or neglect come between them again.